Good morning, good morning, good morning. Oh, goodness. The seeds are falling on the trees. Gotta clean this off a little bit. Ugh, sorry, didn't know those were there. Hope you're having a good day. I'm having my cup of coffee this morning. Just coffee. No sugar, no nothing in it right now. Sometimes I like a little sweetener, but some days I just like the coffee itself. Anyways, I hope you have a good beverage that you could have this morning and follow along. It's good stuff. So the we've been talking about empathy and systems. There's a young man who's written some pretty interesting books. One of his books, called The Righteous Mind, um, points out something interesting about empathy. He kind of leads the analysis that some of empathy has to do with maybe a little genetics and predisposition to different areas. And he highlighted five different areas of empathy. Uh, One is caring, fairness, justice. I'm sorry, caring, fairness, loyalty, um, authority, and sanctity. So those were his five, and I thought I'd talk a little bit about the five because he pointed out that sometimes um we have trouble getting people to match empathy because they have a blind spot for a that one of those five characteristics, or it is not as prominent. Um, he gave the example, and we'll talk about the first one, caring. You know, when someone's injured or you're suffering, you want them to be better. I mean, uh, it's a very rare number of people that don't care about the suffering of others. Happens, but it's rare. However, in some people it's predominant, and in other people uh, it's an important, but also just a factor. The um, caring itself, in the household I grew up in, my when I was younger, I I had my mother who was a registered nurse. She worked. She was actually in World War II and was worked in the hospitals caring for the sick and injured during World War II. Most of her time was spent in England, where they would take fly back injured soldiers for surgery. And she said that she would prep the prep the soldiers for surgery and take care of them for during the recuperation. She was after that she stayed with the VA and moved around. So she was uh she was my example of caring. Pretty good example. My dad, on the other hand, he was also in World War II, and he was in the 101st Airborne Division, and he was very loyal to the United States and to helping the country defeat uh, a regime that we really had a lot of anger toward back then, even before we knew some of the atrocities that had occurred with the behind the lines. One of his uh, stories he told me was he had an athletic heart, and his heart would beat quite rapidly, like around 140 beats per minute, and that was too high to be in the military. So he would have been 4F. Now he was there to sign up. He had just turned 18. Um, so as soon as he turned 18, he wanted to be in the military. And when he showed up and he had that athletic heart, the doctor explained to him that his heart rate was too high. He says, "Doc, is there anything I can do to serve for my country and get out there?" He says, "Because I'm actually, you know, really in good shape." So the doctor said, "I can't lie. I will not lie on your stuff. However, if you um, go in the cot, and there's a room off to the side, and you go lay down in the cot, and I'll come in and take your pulse in a couple hours if you're asleep." So my dad laid down, snoozed off. Doctor came in and took his pulse there in the uh, while he was sleeping, and he got down to 100. So that was good enough. He was in. Became a paratrooper and jumped into Normandy. So he got to get out there and fight. So two great examples of people that are active. But when it comes to care, I often associated care with my mother because of her little profession and what she chose to do in her life. My father, I associated more with loyalty because of his strong desire to serve for his country and be there in its time of uh, peril. So I want to talk a little bit about some examples of care that my mother would do, because it's not just about I care. You also have to be active. She uh, she had a reputation as being pretty stringent. If she came in and she found somebody sleeping, because she's a night nurse, actually oversaw all the night nurses in Memphis. She would uh, she would get in there and I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted. My dog needs to get her ball. I need to pull this aside so that she can get her ball. Okay. Yeah, it's like her binky, and I do care about her, so I have to get her a ball. So she saw somebody um, sleeping. She would wake him up. Second time she saw him sleeping, she would grab somebody, point out the problem, and give her a write up. And third time, she would go and get somebody, and then she would have that person fired. She cared about people, and she also was diligent about the fact that she has people that are there to care for others need to do their job. Boy, I'm throwing a lot of balls today. And before you go, oh, that's nice. At the hospital, they were unionized, and she had a lot of people that didn't do that. It was a pain to fire somebody from a union. And she said, they told me, not her, but her friends told me, yeah, nobody is like your mom at attacking and getting people out that are bad for their patients. Most people just take people and they push them off to the side and try and find areas where they can do the least amount of damage because they don't want to go through the trouble of trying to go through the union review and all this other stuff that happens. So the other example I have from her was she was retired from the VA and she was going to work some so she could get Social Security. And she got a job with nursing, um, elderly care hospital. And when she got there, she didn't want a position. So when she got there, there was another lady that was in charge, and my mom started working there, and she, you know, like always, she's doing a great job. And she, an example that I heard about was there was this lady who was a little catatonic. She couldn't talk. She wasn't responsive, and she would fret. She would just sit there and fret a little bit. You could see she was anxious. My mother noticed she would come over near the office, and she seemed to get a little bit better as she got close to the office where her and the head lady would work. So my mom tried an experiment. She brought her inside so that she could watch my mom, and she said she just calmed down. She said instead of being real anxious, she just kind of calmed down, and her eyes would flit back and forth a little bit, but her body relaxed. And she said she was almost like she maybe in her life did something in offices, and just being there made her feel like she was more at home. My mom didn't know why she felt that way, but she could visibly see the woman was feeling better. So the head lady came in there and got mad at my mom. She said, "What is that woman doing in our office?" And she explained to her about she noticed she was getting better and she calmed down. Rules are rules. Get her out. And my mom made a little check. A couple more of those happened, not with the same woman, but other things where she said, the lady was doing more about how things are supposed to be done instead of caring about the health, well-being of the people there. And my mom got her fired. She got her boss fired. They subsequently made her in charge. She didn't want that, but she was made in charge until they could find a replacement, which they did about a year and a half later. But they finally found a replacement, and she was great. My mom says she was perfect. And that's the way she was. She wouldn't just sit there and see others hurt. She, in my mind, is an example of care. It's one thing to look at people and say, "Ah, they suffer. Oh, that's too bad. Oh, yeah." There's another to actually say, "And what can I do? And what am I doing?" So I'm not my mom. I do try, and I'll never match up to her. She's gonna always be the care in my life. But we're going to talk more about empathy, and where my mom was care, my dad was loyalty. And my dad may not see the care like my mom did, but he did see the loyalty. So that's just saying, not everybody's going to see or be understand the care. So sometimes when you talk about empathy, we need to also understand what area that is and say, some people are just not going to get this. Don't get offended. Don't get upset. They're just not going to get it. And it's just natural. And I'll try and put a link to the book down below where he talks about the 5 different forms of empathy. And let's just keep in mind that not to get upset with people if they're not um, good at care and they're better at other stuff. And just maybe as we go through this, try and look for some of the other things that they may be good at. You guys have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.